Hello, friends. So today I'm going to talk about jazz books that I have found most useful. So I don't really recommend learning jazz from books only. Like, that's a terrible idea. You should be listening to the recordings. You should be transcribing stuff. You should be trying to imitate the kind of sounds that you want, like the players that you want to sound like. That being said, I do find some books helpful to kind of jumpstart the process, like what kinds of things are jazz players playing, like kind of as a baseline. So I have 4 books here I'm going to go through, and they're not in any particular order. They've just won the ones that I found most useful. And I probably have a couple dozen different jazz books, and these are the ones I've liked the best. So to start with, I love this book here. The light's bad. Here you go. So the idea with this book, it's just like a voice leading book for piano. The idea is it goes through very common progressions. So 2-5-1, 6-2-5-1, and then a lot of variations on it. So it'll go through your standard like 2-5-1. It'll kind of have that written out, but then it has other progressions like this chromatic embellishment. So it'll go. And then like lots of variations on it. Something like that. And so it has like 13 chapters just going through different variations of that. So let me just flip randomly through one here. Chapter 4, 3-note rootless voicings. So here's 2-5-1s. 2-5-1, that kind of thing. And then it has some variations on it. So then a bunch of variations on it, and it kind of explains the voice leading. Let's see here. Later on, like it gets pretty wacky towards the end. So let's go through here. Here's a 6-2-5-1. So later on in the book, it doesn't handhold so much. It just shows lots of variations like on the same chord progression. Then it's up for you to do the work, transcribe, and work through all these voice leadings, becoming really familiar with how this kind of jazz harmony works. All right, so the next one that I like is this Voicings for Jazz Keyboard by Frank Mantooth. Okay, so the thing I like about this, it's very skinny. That's what I liked about it. It's really compact. It gives you some very useful things, like just some basic theory at the beginning. The thing I've liked about this is the concept of making kind of modern fourth-sounding voicing. So the concept here is like if you wanted to build a fourth voicing, say on F major, start with the third, and then just stack up your fourths. There you got a nice fourth voicing. Okay, or you can start on the 7th. So lots of that kind of stuff. So here's a 2-5-1 example. So in B flat. So to give you that modern sound pretty quickly. The other concept that I like, he has this concept of you take the shell and then you stack another triad on top of it. So for example, like a G dominant voicing. You take the shell, 7th and 3rd, and then you can take different triads and like thinking about it like that. So you would take so for G, this would be the major 6, take a major 6 chord, this E major over the G shell. Or you take an E flat chord instead. Or let's see, what else can you, you can also do like an A chord. That kind of stuff. Yeah, the next one, I guess maybe the first kind of like textbook kind. I know most people reach for like the jazz theory book or something, but I've really liked this one, Jazzology. So the thing I like about it, it doesn't really assume anything. So it starts with your scales, but it's kind of like a textbook workbook in one. So if you go to these sections here, let's see here. If you can see that. Yeah, there's like workbook sections. like little exercises. Let me look at the table of contents here. 251, harmonic analysis, 251, voicings on the piano, jazz tune forms, the rhythm changes, that kind of stuff. The thing I like at the back, it has some example like solos. It has example solos. So you can kind of see how they would maybe make a solo on these changes. And they're very similar to like standard jazz tunes. They don't use the standard jazz tune names, but you can recognize them actually just standard chord progression tunes, right? So yeah, I really like this one if you want more of like a standard kind of textbook, walk you through all the theory, have some examples that you can write out and play. Okay, and the last one that I like to kind of assimilate bebop language, just go get the Charlie Parker Omnibook. So I don't start by just like looking at it and playing it. I find a tune. I find a tune on the table of contents that I want to learn, like a new Charlie Parker tune, or I hear something on, my Spotify playlist that I'm listening throughout the day. Find a tune. I do my best, even if it's like horrible. Do my best to just try to get the sound. Try to transcribe little bits of pieces of it. And then I go to the music and try to like fill in my holes. So I go back and forth like this. I don't just look at the music and do it, because like my rhythm's going to be wrong, my accents are going to be wrong. Like all that stuff is not really notated in the music. You've got to go to the recordings and figure out how these guys really play. And the music can kind of assist that, because I find, man, like sometimes it's going so fast, or a Charlie Parker tune, like I'm close, I just miss a couple notes here and there, and so this will help tighten it up. And then I put it on the metronome and I just play with the recording. So as far as transcription books, this is about the only transcription book I really use. Now I have others. I started with this, so I'm like, I want to sound like Bill Evans, and like that was impossible. Even with the music, it's so hard to get it to sound just like Bill Evans, or like this. So I don't know. I found limited usefulness in getting a pure transcription book and then trying to sound like these guys in that way, like straight from the page. Maybe this is like my classical background. I'm so used to looking at a score and trying to like get it from the paper that I'm not really listening, and I don't sound anything like Oscar Peterson or Bill Evans or something. So I've had much better luck. Just go to a recording, find a small snippet, and just listen, try to get that sound. Like if you have to, maybe go back to the transcription book as a reference, but like I have not found that as good. And oftentimes, even books like this, I find mistakes. Like it's so hard to sometimes transcribe actually what they're doing. Like there's little ghost notes, there's little nuances that like on paper just doesn't capture so well. And then, when Bill Evans does his little intro stuff, let me see if I can find an intro here. Like the rhythm notation is all over the place. Yeah, I'm looking at this one on a clear day. It's like flipping back and forth between 2/4, 4/4, 3/4. It's like they're doing their best, right? They're doing their best to transcribe this stuff, but like you've got to listen, like what is really going on inside Bill Evans' head when he's coming up with this stuff? What is his sense of time? Because flipping these meters, like I don't know, is he really flipping meters? Does he have a larger structure in his head? Like you've got to go and listen to it. And I just find the book is a poor substitute to actually gaining transcription skills. Now, that said, like on YouTube, sometimes you can find fully transcribed solos with the music with it. So I found that pretty useful because I get that kind of immediate feedback of, am I sounding anywhere close to what the actual recording sounds like? Because that's the goal. Like we want to sound like authentic. We want to have that bebop sound or that kind of Bill Evans sound. And just using music, usually I'm not getting there. So anyway, there are my recommendations. I recommended you 4 books and kind of my philosophy on transcription books while I were at it. So anyway, happy practicing.